How are you today? I hope you're doing fine. In this meeting, we are going to talk about rules and freedom part 2. Do you remember in the previous meeting you have learned about rules and freedom part 1 and focusing on the obligation and permission in the present. The language focus is obligation and permission in the past. So basically, it will talk about the rules and the freedom that people had in the past. And also the patterns, the forms of the language that we use to talk about obligation and permission in the past. As a citizen of a society or a community, we have several obligations and permissions, whether they are in the past or in the present. Remember, the focus of today's lesson is about past obligations and permission. Let's take a look at this sentence. When I was a primary student, I had to wear a uniform every day. I had to join a ceremony every Monday morning. I could wear shorts and I was allowed to bring my own lunch. Now let's see this close. When I was a primary student, here you can notice that the context is in words. Now let's see what were the obligations and permissions that you had in the past. We had we start from obligation. I had to wear a uniform every day. Here you had no choice. It was mandatory. It was obligatory to wear a uniform every day. If you didn't do that, you would get punishment. Next, I had to join a ceremony every Monday. That means you had no other choice. You had to join the ceremony because it was obligatory, or you would get the punishment if you didn't do that. What about the permissions? The first permission is I could wear shorts. That means it was okay. It was possible to wear shorts at school. The school gave you permission to do that. The next one is I was allowed to bring my own lunch. That means it was okay for me to it was okay for you to bring lunch. The permission was given by the school. So it was possible to do that. Now let's see the form. Take a closer look. Remember that we talk about past obligation and past permission. For the positive past obligation, we use modal had to, while for past permission, we can use the modal could or was or were allowed to. What about the negative one? For past obligation, the negative form is using didn't have to, while for the past permission, you use couldn't or wasn't or weren't allowed to. Remember, had to, could, was or were allowed to are always followed by bare infinitive or base form or verb 1. That means You cannot use ing, s or es, d or ed after the verb. For example, I had to sing. You cannot say I had to singing. She could go to school, but you cannot say she could goes to school. Remember, you have to use pair infinitive or base form or verb 1 after had to, could, was or were allowed to. Now, let's talk about some strange laws in the past. Start from the first one. In the 19th century, female teachers in the USA couldn't get married or even go out with men. If they got engaged, they had to resign from their job immediately. Male teachers, on the other hand, could get married and have children without problem. It seems as unfair law, isn't it? Now let's see. Let's try to find the obligation or permission from this paragraph. Let's start from couldn't get married or go out with men. Is it permission or obligation? Yes, it's permission because we use modal couldn't. What about could get married and could have children? Is it obligation or permission? Yes, it's permission because we use modal could. Okay, so the permissions that we have from the paragraph here is female teachers in the USA couldn't get married or go out with men. It is the negative form. And the second one, male teachers could get married and have children. It is the positive one. The next law. Take a look at the sentence. In 18th century England, people had to pay window tax for each window in their house. However, this law was eventually changed because many poor people chose to live in houses without windows just so that they didn't have to pay. Okay, I guess you can see from the picture here. It is very strange picture. It's very odd because here there is a house or a building but without window. But why the window is closed? Because they had to pay their here or permission. Exactly, it's obligation because we use had to and didn't have to. So here the obligation is people had to pay window tax for their house. Now, next strange law in the past. In the times of Peter the Great in Russia, noblemen weren't allowed to wear beards. If they wanted to keep their beards, they had to pay a special tax to the Tsar's government. Now try to analyze the sentences. Find whether there is obligation or permission in the past. Now the last law from the past. In the Midwest of the USA in the 1880s, you were not allowed to eat ice cream soda on Sunday. Restaurant owners solved this problem by serving ice cream without soda, which became known as a sundae or a sundae. Again, find the obligation or the permission from this paragraph. Now, let's learn some English idioms using the word law and rule. The first one, in trouble with the law. In trouble with the law means being questioned by the police in connection with something illegal or criminal. For example, if you did something illegal or if you did crimes, the policeman would question you. So here, the suspect has always been in trouble with the law. Next, above the law. Above the law considers that someone doesn't have to obey the laws that apply to someone else. For example, because you are the king or the queen or the president of a country, you don't have to obey the law or rules in the society. That is what is meant by above the law. See the example. Sometimes elected officials violate regulation because they think they are above the law. Next, bend the law or rules. It means to change the rules in a way that is considered to be not important or not harmful. For example, can you bend the rules a little, please? I was only a few minutes late. Last one, freedom of maneuver. Freedom of maneuver means the space and ability to make changes to something. For example, hurry up! We don't have much freedom of maneuver in our schedule. That means we don't have the time. You don't have the space or ability to change the schedule. Before we end today's session, I have a very nice quote for you. It is made by our legend Albert Einstein. Laws alone cannot secure freedom of expression. In order that every man may present his views without penalty, there must be a spirit of tolerance in the entire population. So, laws itself cannot stand alone without tolerance from the government or from the society. Well, I guess that's all for today's session. Should you have any questions, you can find me at my email address or at my WhatsApp number stated in the slide. Thank you very much and I will see you next time. Bye.